Australia looks apocalyptic. Fires burning hotter, advancing faster, moving more erratically. Facing these changes, many people who rely on the land are pointing to climate change as a driving force of the fires.
What we've seen this year is just far and above anything anybody was really expecting, I think. You know, the whole east coast of Australia is on fire, and not just on fire, but with huge, terrifying infernos. Yeah, that's not normal.
This is looking down Yankees Gap Road, so Indian...
When the sky darkened and the horizon turned orange, Nick and Annabelle and their son-in-law were alone in trying to stop the fire from consuming their home, Mill Farm, their paradise, a place they'd moved to because of its reputation for being lush and wet, suddenly facing extermination by a wall of flames.
Look, it's not so much as thinking at that point, it's reacting. It's an innate sense of self-protection that kicks in.
So this is your fire truck?
Yep.
This is your fire gear?
That's it.
Helmet?
Yep, that's a helmet, and eye protection is really...
No firefighters, just them and what they'd prepared. And it worked, but only just, stopping the flames threatening their hobby farm. Their neighbors weren't so lucky. Exhausted as they were by the end of it, they know the threat is only getting bigger.
It's a tragedy beyond the scale that we hoped we'd ever see. But I really hope people wake up, because we can't just pretend that someone else is going to fix this for us. We can't sit here thinking that it will go away. We're seeing the fruits of our labour. You know, we're seeing the damage that we've created.
It's a global problem. Don't think that this is just Australia.
That global problem is climate change. And while it may not have ignited Australia's fires, it has worsened them.
Oof. Somebody didn't get their car out in time.
Up the road from Mill Farm, we drive through 200 smoke-choked kilometers that have been burned, past dozens of razed homes, struck by just how vast this season's fires have been and how little time people have had to react. It's arbitrary, the fire. You keep seeing evidence of that. This place knocked out, but the places across the street are okay. All the result of where embers fall. Then there is the speed. When the fire hit, the people in this home were doing their laundry, still sitting on the line. Australia is hotter now than it's ever been, drier too, the whole island becoming ever more conducive to monster bushfires.
I reckon they'll find the creek pretty quick, actually.
Nick and Annabelle live at Mill Farm with their daughter's family, Tiffany, her husband, and her son, George. And she is deeply worried about the future he faces.
I think that our politicians, I think they're scared. They're in a comfortable position at the moment. And I don't think that they quite care about the land because they're not living on it. I think they're getting a lot of money and power from the way they're doing things at the moment. And I don't think it's politicians now. I think it's 40 years of inaction. It's 40 years of denying what's going on.
So what if this isn't enough? What if this isn't the thing that prompts the action you're suggesting is needed?
Then we're just going to keep seeing more and more of these events. It's a bit of a snowball effect, and it's scary, and especially when you have a young child or you are starting a family, it's very scary.
For George's dad, Pat Crawley-Bacon, the fires have meant leaving home once it was saved, to try to save others in a battle on the home front with Australia's army.
If everyone's doing their part, we'll get through this quicker. We've been running supply drops to isolated communities, bringing them food and goods that they haven't had for up to 10 days. And now we're heading out for some tree assessments for some complicated felling operations.
Pat is restricted from speaking his mind, but it doesn't mean he doesn't have opinions.
You know, as far as the government, we'll see how the next elections go. That's all I can say about that.
It's time for the government to wake up.
Others are openly calling for change, say their environmental future depends on it.
You know, hopefully now that the country is burning, it's a bad way for it to happen, but hopefully people start to take notice, people who can actually make some change.
Weekly climate action protests in Australia target the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, a Donald Trump-like character. That government has resisted substantial change, protecting the country's rich coal export industry, the world's largest.
It's going to be George's first little dress-up suit for when he goes to preschool one day. And
At Mill Farm, George will need to grow into this costume. But as fires continue to worsen and act erratically, cause more damage, the costume may also be a prophecy of his future. David Common, CBC News, Bamboka, Australia.